Some football shirt restorations are more complicated than others. Like this one, it's got nameset, residue here, multiple stages to it. By the end of this video, we're going to have shown you every single step of how to get this shirt looking good again. So stick with us till the end so you can see what this currently damaged shirt ends up looking like. And if this video sounds like the sort of thing you like, please remember to click like and subscribe and leave us a comment below, and we'd love to get back to you. Hello there and welcome back to our channel. Some nameset removals are straightforward. Look at this one, straightforward vinyl, there's no residue, there's no stains to get off, it's just going to be nice and simple to take off. But not all shirt restorations are the same. Take this one for example, there's a fair bit of work to do. Now, not all shirts, I would say, are kind of worth spending hours and hours trying to restore. But this one, this is one of my favourite ever Arsenal shirts. The red currant shirt, 2006 home shirt. I love it. So this is well worth putting the time and effort into restoring. But if we look at what needs to be done, you've got a new Lextra Henri nameset that's been pressed over the top of what looks like an old vinyl one. There's loads of residue there. The Lextra nameset has got some sort of glue or adhesive stuck to it. You've got sleeve patches where there's loads of residue. There's a fair bit of work that needs to be done. And what some people think is that, well, we'll just work around the edges here. It's a nice enough nameset. We'll work around the edges and just try and get rid of the residue. That's not going to work. Any steps that you take to clean up things like this are going to damage this nameset here. So unfortunately, rather than being a precise surgeon's scalpel, we're going to have to be a little bit of a wrecking ball with this one. Take the Henri off, take the residue off, take it back to a pretty blank canvas and then press something new on. But like I say, there's many steps to this. So I'm going to show you in order every step that you need to do. So come with me over to the other side and we'll start. So here we are over at the bench. Now, the first stage of this multi-stage process is to remove the flock. So what do we need to remove the flock? Well, we're going to need a board. We're going to need our Pyrex and our light pad. We're going to need alcohol. And I'll show you what happens if you use alcohol versus VLR on flock, because it's although with VLR will work, won't be as efficient and it will leave you with more steps around removing the adhesive. You'll need microfiber cloth, one of our magic scrapers. God, this one's looking a bit worse for wear now. And something to collect the debris in. So first things first, going to turn on the light panel and we're going to get the shirt and we're going to apply the alcohol to the back. So we're going to spray our alcohol on the back, start with the H, so it's just there, you might not be able to see that. But we're going to spray it on, saturate it, that's fine, and we're going to leave that for about a minute or two and then we'll be back. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you click like and subscribe. It really helps us with the algorithm. And if you want to start giving things a go but you're not really too sure where to start, check out our AI bot, Kit GPT. There's a link down in the description, and rather than wait ages for me to get back to you with you sending me questions on YouTube or on any of the socials, you can use Kit GPT, ask it your questions, it will give you answers and point you at the right videos to watch. So give that a go. So a couple of minutes later, we sprayed that on the back, we're going to have a look at it. Now, depending on where you are in the world, depends on how hot it is, how humid it is. I'm in the UK, it's a nice sunny day today, so it might evaporate quite quickly. With alcohol, it takes a little bit longer to evaporate than things like VLR. But if you're in a more humid or cooler country, then it may take a little bit longer for the alcohols to start working on the adhesive. So just bear that in mind. So what we're going to do now, put the H, put the shirt over the board. You can see it's nice and wet from the alcohol. And using our scraper, we're just going to try and get underneath. Now, the trick when doing any sort of removal is to not force things. You don't want to damage the material. You want to find the right solvent to do the job. And this is where I know for a fact that the best one that I've found for Lextra type letters, which is this kind of printed flock material, is alcohol. Takes a little bit longer, but at least it's readily available to the people that can't get hold of things like VLR and what have you. So isopropyl alcohol, 99.9% is good for me. And you can see it just starts eating away at the adhesive. I'm not really putting much force in, doing a little bit of a swiping motion. And you can see as I go on, it's getting easier and easier. And that's the alcohol actually continuing to activate on the adhesive. So you don't, like I say, you don't want to be doing it too hard because you don't want to damage the material on the shirt. But you do need to be firm enough to get it underneath the name set and have it come away from the material. So let's just keep going with this one. If you find that it's getting a bit hard, all you need to do is spray a little bit more on the back. So maybe the alcohol has evaporated a little bit there. So I'm going to get some more spray on the back. And this will help with, as we remove the adhesive from the flock straight away after, because there's more adhesive that we'll deal with in a different way. The adhesive from the previous name set, we'll deal with that in a different way. But for the minute, we're just going to concentrate on getting rid of the flock. So spray a little bit more alcohol on, let's let that sit, and then we'll carry on. So we've let that sit for another minute or so. Let's now put it back over and start working back with the scraper to get it off. It looks like I don't know what the original name set was. That's a D. So I don't know what it was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't an Arsenal player that had that name set, whatever it was before. Maybe Dreamy, something like that. And the alcohol does a really good job at eating the adhesive. Far better than with VLR. I'll do one of the letters with VLR, and what you'll see is that the letter will come away a lot quicker, but it will leave a thick layer of residue. And that's because VLR isn't the best solvent for this type of adhesive. So here we go. First letter is off. And you can see now we've got the H adhesive. So we're going to look for the grain of the shirt. So you can see here is the grain. It's going in that direction. This is a total 90 shirt. So we're going to go in line with that, not across it, because if you go across it, you can damage the material. So we're going to go in line with the grain and start scraping away the adhesive. And look, you can see it's coming off. Finish this letter, then I'll be back. So here we are, a couple of minutes later, you can see got the D there, most of the residue from the H is gone, and all we did was repeat the process with the alcohol, front and back, use the scraper in line with the grain of the shirt. We've got an in-depth video that shows you how to get rid of a flock name set, and I'll pull it about there. And there's also an in-depth video on how to remove the residue from flock name sets, and I'll put that one up there as well. So check them out for a little bit more detail. What I'm going to show you now is what happens if you use VLR on flock. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go to the other end. There's the Y there. We're going to get some VLR and we're just going to apply it to the back of the Y as we would a normal removal. Now, as I've said before, VLR evaporates a lot quicker than alcohol. So what that means is, although it works quicker on the adhesive, it will evaporate quicker and therefore will stop being as effective in a shorter amount of time. So that means you've almost got to kind of rush trying to get the letter off. So as with normal things with VLR, you pull it around, doesn't really make a difference on flock. But what we'll do while that VLR is working is we'll put the shirt over our board and I'll show you what happens when we're taking the Y off. So let's take the Y off. You can see, look, it's coming off nice and easy, which is great. The trouble is, there you go, look, it's coming off nice and easy. Trouble is, look at all this residue. is left behind. Now, the key to getting clean removals is to get as much of the residue off with the name set as possible. Now, because VLR works a little bit quicker than alcohol, it kind of does a fantastic job at quickly removing the letter. But now we've got quite a thick amount of residue, far more than we had with the alcohol, because the alcohol works a bit slower, but is able to kind of get rid of, eat away at the adhesive. So now what we're going to have to do is do a fair bit of adhesive removal, which makes it more likely that we're going to damage the material of the shirt, and it takes a little bit of extra time. So that's my little tip for flock. Go with alcohol, not VLR. So what I'm going to do now, before I move on to the next step, is I'm going to have to get rid of all of the flock. It's going to take me a little bit of time. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back to work on the residue. So we're now part way through the flock removal. I thought I'd show you a little trick for getting the flock off, but with leaving as little residue as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray the alcohol on the back of the number. Now, the good thing about using the right solvent for the right adhesive is that the solvent does the work in terms of trying to get the name set off. It eats the adhesive rather than using force. So if you use the right solvent, you'll have less residue to get off after. Hence why using VLR isn't really a good idea. Now, what you'll see with the alcohol versus what you see with VLR is that if it's going all right, you should be able to just start peeling it. Look, you can see it's just coming off really nicely, and it's not leaving behind much residue. So the bit where I've saturated it with alcohol, and you can see where it is, it's kind of in that shape. Here you go. You can see, you can just peel the flock off, and you can see there's hardly any residue there. Whereas if you use the wrong solvent, it will come off, but you end up using a lot of force, and it leaves behind a lot of residue. So there you go. There's a little tip on using the right solvent for the right job. And this really applies to flock more than vinyl, because vinyl would just disintegrate in your hands, whereas flock has a little bit more strength to it. You're able to kind of peel it off with your fingers. So there you go. Nice little tip. But I'm going to remove the last bits of flock, and then we're going to get on to the adhesive residue. We really enjoy doing these start to finish videos, so make sure you stay to the end to make sure you don't, not only you don't miss out on any of the tips and tricks we teach you along the way, but then you'll be able to see what the outcome looks like, because it looks awesome. And if you're enjoying this and you want to give it a go, but you're really not too sure where to start or what have you, you can always do a one-to-one video call with us. We offer 30-minute calls, and we can take you through whatever it is you want to cover. We've had loads of satisfied customers that have had one-to-ones that have started their journey to shirt restoration. So give it a go. So the flock is now all off. Got a fair bit of residue still from the 14, but I'm not really too fussed about that, because I'm going to be putting a fresh Henri 14 back over the top. What I am a little bit bothered about is getting rid of this residue. So where it said Dammy and a 9, I reckon it was probably vinyl. So what I'm going to do, feeling what the residue kind of feels like, and what's made it, will make it even harder, is the fact that you can see it's darkened here, and that's because when you've applied the new Henri, that's heat getting applied to the residue, which always makes it a lot harder to get rid of. So here's a little tip. Never apply direct heat to residue in an effort to try and get it off, because more often than not, it will set the residue even harder. But that aside, what we're going to do now is we're going to start on the letters up here. And what we need for that is our block. We need our scraper, something to put the debris in, And now we're switching to VLR because like I say, I think that's vinyl residue. So we're going to use VLR to get that off. So we've got our light box. There we go. And we're going to apply the VLR to the back of the residue to get it all off. So the light box makes it a little bit easier to see where the residue is. Unfortunately, it's quite faint, the residue. I can just about see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the VLR to the back here. Now, where the Nike Total 90 sign was, I mean, it's going to get damaged now. That's just the way it is. I wouldn't worry about that. But what I've done now is I've applied it to the back. And like I say, VLR is a lot quicker to evaporate. So we need to act quite quickly to start working on the residue. So put the shirt over the board and then spin it round so you can see it. So we're going to work on this H, and with our scraper we're just going to start in the direction of the material, not going across the grain. We're going to go in the direction of material and start scraping lightly, because the VLR will do the job with dissolving it all and liquefying the adhesive. But we're going to go across in line with the grain and just scrape it all off. So you can see it's coming away very, very nicely. It's a hot day today, so I reckon I will have to apply the VLR several times. So as you can see, the residue from the name is pretty much all gone. We've got these nasty smear marks that are left from using the solvent, but don't worry, because we've got a tip for that. We'll show you how to get rid of that. But now what we need to do is start focusing on the number. Now, I've already said we're going to be putting another number 14 back on, so I'm not too fussed about that residue. But what I do want to get rid of is this nasty singed vinyl residue that someone's tried to cover but failed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do something I don't typically do with VLR. We're going to apply it directly to the front. Now, the reason behind me not using VLR to the front on vinyl is because it will melt the dye or ink or paint in the nameset, and that's what creates the smear marks, because it will liquefy it and then that gets smeared into the shirt. What we've got here is entirely adhesive. There's no colour here, so there's no colour for it to leak into the shirt. We've just got adhesive that we want to get rid of. So what I'm going to do is just do a bit of a free pour of the VLR onto the top of the 9. Now, like I've said, VLR works really quickly and evaporates really quickly. So time is of the essence with this. So what I'm going to do, I don't need the light box anymore, so I'll move the light box out of the way. Here we go, that's the printer kicking off. So with the scraper, we're going to go down and we're going to just start scraping away. Again, in line with the grain of the material. And what you will see is, look at that nasty gunk coming off, which is singed. Look at the colour of it compared to unsinged residue. It's nasty, it's dark red and brown. So we're going to go round and just scrape away at it. It doesn't matter if we also scrape away at the, God, look at the colour of it, at the 1 and the 4, because we, you know, there's nothing wrong with getting rid of more residue than you need to. It's just, you don't really want to waste your time doing that. So all the focus is on the residue from the 9. Now, where you scrape it and you end up going down, what you can get if you don't wipe it away is a collection of kind of gunk down the bottom. So what you want to do really when you're ready is to wipe that away with your microfiber cloth so that it doesn't set a new stain into the material. You can use the scraper to kind of get up as much of the excess VLR as possible. It's another reason why the scrapers are so good, because they're very thin and fine, and they're able to kind of act almost like a spoon and spoon up the excess VLR. And then when you're not getting as much, there's not really much there, you're going to get your microfiber cloth and we're going to give it a rub. And what you'll see is some of the adhesive will start rolling up into like little worms, if you like, and you'll just rub them away. Now, you don't want to be rubbing too hard because you don't want to smear the adhesive into the material. You just want to make sure you clear the edges before you then repeat the process. So I'm going to go through and finish off. I'll follow this exact process and I'll finish off removing the 9 and then we'll be back. You can see now where there was singed residue, we've got it off by following that process. You can still see the remnants of the other bits that I've not bothered going with because they're going to go under the new numbers that I'm going to put on. But now what we need to do is address these smear marks. I don't know if you can see, oh, there's your ice cream man. I don't know if you can see these smear marks around the outside, and these are a result of using alcohol and VLR to get the name set off with. So what we're going to do is use our magic spot solve. Now this is a solvent based spot stain remover. If you're in the UK, you can get it from these people, World of Clean. I will put a link in the description and you get I think it's 10% off or maybe even 15% off using the voucher code, so that's all good. If you live abroad, you can contact them and see if they'll send it to you. If they don't worry. What you need to do is look for a locally available solvent-based spot stain remover. This is actually a carpet cleaner. So if you look for something along the lines of a solvent-based carpet cleaner in your local place, that local country, then you should be good to go with it. Now, you're going to want to test it, but that's my tip to you, because I can't ship this internationally. Maybe World of Clean will if you contact them, but failing that, look for something local. And if you find something, then leave us a message down below in the comments. But all I'm going to do now with this is I'm going to spray it on the marks. Now I've got the board, the shirt is still on the board, because what we don't want is for this to go through to the front side of the shirt, which is the O2 sponsor. And then using cotton pads, give it a few seconds or so to sit on the stain. But we're using the cotton pads, we're now going to go round and we're going to mop up. And I've got a, so look at that, there's still stuff coming off with it. And I've got a video that covers using spot solve in more detail. I'll pull it around about there. And that covers it in a lot more detail. But all I'm going to do now is I'm going to go round, get rid of the stains, and then I'll be back. And just while I'm doing this, something that's occurred to me is that I get a lot of messages from people saying that they've tried to use spot solve to get rid of residue. I mean, I'd love it if it works, and if you've tried doing it and you've found out that it works for you, then fantastic, let us know. My gut feel is that it's not the right tool to use for residue. I don't think it's strong enough to get rid of residue. It is fantastic for getting rid of the smear stains, but it's not very good, I don't think, for getting rid of residue. So, yeah, if you want to get rid of residue, then up here is a video that explains exactly how to do all sorts of things with getting rid of residue. I just wouldn't use spot solve. And something to bear in mind when you're using spot solve is you don't want to let it dry. So don't start it, go off, have a cup of tea, then come back, because it will leave more smear stains. Once you start it, you need to finish the process and then put it in to have a wash. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around, get this all off, pull it in for a wash, and then I'll be back. So the shirt has now been washed. Still got a little bit of a damp patch there. We put it in the wash, put it in one of the Guppy Friend wash bags, which collects any of the micro plastics that could get released from the shirt, so eco-friendly. There's a link to those in the description down below if you want to use them to wash your shirts. We highly recommend them. But now you can see it's looking quite good for being ready to press the name set on. So we're going to put an Henri 14 back on in a nice curve. I'm not going to show you exactly how to do the curve because I've already done a video on it. The video is up about there. So I'm going to go over to the press, line up the curve and give it a press. So here we are over on the heat press. Like I say, I'm not going to go into the detail now for how to line it all up, but just to say a few things. You've got the curve by using one of our curve templates. If you want one, drop us a note and we can send you one. We used some application tape to tape the letters in the curve, and then we found the middle of the curve by using one of these templates. So we found the middle of the collar using that. We lined the middle of the name set up with the middle of the collar. You mark the shirt with a heat sensitive ink pen where the ink will disappear once it gets hot. The permanent marker we use to mark the line there. Don't get the two confused. And then we've done the same for the 14. We've matched the 1 and the 4 to the residue and made everything kind of revolve around that, and then got the 1 and the 4 taped together to make sure they're level. So we're going to give it a press and then show you the final outcome. And we've also got to press on some sleeve patches, and I've got some of them ready as well. So we're going to get it all pressed and then show you the end result. So stay to the end. And here you have it. The shirt is now finished. Look at that, nice and clean. No residue, no marks, new sleeve patches. There's the other one. There's the other one. I'm really, really pleased with that. So what did we do? Well, we started off with a flock name set on, but there was loads of residue from the former name set, so we used the alcohol to get the flock off. Then we used VLR to get the residue from the previous name set off. Then we created a nice curve with the new name set to go back on. We gave it the shirt a wash, got rid of the smear stains, gave it a press, and this is the finished article. And like I say, I'm really pleased with that. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to click like and subscribe. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to give us a shout. So if you've enjoyed this video, you're going to love these two.